Welcome to Hannah Klein's Time. Tonight, we move past the media's documentary delusions and face the cold reality of the 2026 security landscape. I'm joined by a physicist and um, a reserve colonel, Dr. Ranzamir, to discuss the objective reasons for the current conflict, not the feelings surrounding it. Dr. Zamir brings a unique perspective from his personal history with Iranian scientists before the 1979 revolution to his analysis of the theological clock driving the Islamic Republic's current aggression. In this session, we correct, or I have to say I correct because the opinion on the media is basically what I have as an objective opinion. And he does have very positive impression about Japan. So please understand this part. But I correct the record on the international terror, why the drone strikes on civilian complexes in neighboring countries were deliberate acts of war, not near misses. The 10,000 souls in just 3 days. Think about this. Addressing the IRGC's execution of over 10,000 protesters, a humanitarian reality the mainstream media of Japan totally ignores right now. This is outrageous. The future of Japan. Of course, Dr. Zamir has very positive future perspective about Japan. Meaning, why Dr. Zamir believes in the resilience of the Japanese people and looks to Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi to lead a free and open Indo-Pacific, forming, for example, a strong alliance with India. As Chancellor, by the way, he has been to the conference where Chancellor Merz attended. I will just note this. But as Chancellor Merz recently noted, peace is a choice that could happen in 24 hours if the weapons were laid down. This is very true. And this is very humane. Until then, we must understand the logic of the shield. Okay, so now I have to ask this. This journal, Sentinel Journal, I changed this name because I am not talking about the essays or writing about the essays. And obviously, I'm always talking about diplomacy, foreign policy, or politics the whole time, or economy. And sometimes I'd like to invite the writers. But anyways, this is a reader-supported publication. To support my work, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Thank you, and please start listening. Good morning.
Good morning, Hannah. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
It's quite early in the morning in Israel, and
Well, we were prevented some sleep by Iranian missile alerts and things like that this morning,
really?
starting 5:20 or so was the first alarm, and then, but that's okay.
Oh, so have you been awake since then? Like,
Well, yeah, I've been awake
oh,
since
okay.
then because the Iranian didn't want me to sleep. So what can I do?
Well, I
My
hope that,
contribution to the general effort.
well, yeah, your family contributes a lot to the safety of Israel.
Yeah,
But I think that this war, uh, many political scientists, I have to say this that they are also forecasting, um, they are forecasting the election for US election, the next election. And
mhm,
so, that's why they are saying something like the approval rate is low, because, regarding the war and so forth. But
mhm.
I think that this the reason, why this is happening is not because of President Trump or President Netanyahu, well, Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think. But if
Yeah,
you,
I think that
yeah, please just go ahead and, speak
we
about
we are facing two extraordinary leaders. And these two extraordinary leaders, I don't think that they really make the calculation today of what will be the outcome of the elections, October in Israel or November in the United States or everything. They
it.
simply set out to do the right things as they view it, and I
Mhm.
agree. And they say the people is smart enough to
Mhm.
give us the vote if we actually do what the people need. And therefore, we are going to do that regardless of everything, regardless of not of all the other things. And both of them have started thinking outside the box. The things that have worked so far do not work. Let us do something else.
Mhm.
And I think that everybody is afraid of President Trump because President Trump is not obliged by the political correctness, by the old rules, by all those things. He says, I have the interest of the United States, I have the interest of its allies, I need to promote that. I have a lot of threats around the globe, and I'm going to do what it takes. And if you look at this campaign, starting in Venezuela, which has a lot to do with Iran securing the oil and everything, and going throughout the globe, and him going to meet Xi next month from a huge strength position.
Mhm.
Just the current 2 months have cost I think China over $100 billion in the difference of crude oil prices alone. So he's coming very strong. We will talk about other strengths soon, I'm sure, but that's extraordinary leadership of these two people that are really leading the globe now. You see that Macron, Keir Starmer, all these guys have been left behind,
But
totally irrelevant.
yeah, but I was reading the statement by the spokesperson of China, the PRC, People's Republic of China,
Mhm.
and they are, I think, afraid, really, of the situation.
Yeah,
So
you see,
like they say like, stop it now, something like that.
they can say whatever they want, but
Yeah.
this sends a message. Look,
Mhm.
what happened both in these 12 days war as well as now, you show that there is absolute supremacy of the attacking weapons of the West on the defense system of the East. Both
Yes.
Chinese and
And
Russian
Russian.
defense
Yeah,
system
exactly.
have been defeated totally by Israeli and American weapons,
Technology. Yeah.
aircrafts, and technology. This causes a lot of anxiety today,
Mhm.
both in Moscow and Beijing. It means they can no longer threaten to do what they want. I mean, China is in no position to threaten taking Taiwan now
Mhm.
because it showed that you are defenseless. You cannot do that. You would have to come to terms. You would have to come to understandings. Nobody wants to bring China to its knees because this would take such an effort from the Western world that I'm not sure that the Western world will survive it well afterwards. But it wants to come to terms with China and Russia alike.
Yeah.
And this gives him the strength position to talk about those things in a proper way. And
Mm.
this is total supremacy. You see that Israel and the United States are flying all over Iran.
Mm.
We come
Yeah, the
from
air power
almost,
is great. It's is very, very,
yeah, because we are now using precise weapons. It's no
yeah.
longer subject to Newton's bombing those things with these sights that you have to sit and look at. It is precise weapon. It is weapon that can be launched from far away. It can be launched on various ways. You no longer need the bombers to be very, straight in the air for a long time, exposed to air defenses and all that. And the air defense has been subdued totally. So this is a huge supremacy shown to everyone.
Mm.
It will need to be kept. It's not forever.
Mm.
The guys sitting in China and in Russia are no idiots. They are serious guys. They are good scientists. They are good technologies. They are
Mm.
good engineers. They will figure it out. But you have to be ahead of them at all times. That means constant development. And
Oh.
I'm sure that Japan would have a lot to contribute on that. A lot. If Japan really aligns itself properly
Mm.
with the Western world, which I think it should, due to common values, due to the position, due to the fact that it would serve Japan interest in the best way. So right now you see just the spearhead of something
Mm.
that the Americans and us are doing together. The Americans are allowing us to fly over Iran, coming from 15 or 100 or 2,000 kilometers away, refueling and all that with the aid of the United States. The Israeli Air Force is working as a part of CENTCOM,
Mm.
and it's working very well. But it took years of training, years of preparations. It's not that just you blow the whistle and everything goes like
Yeah,
smoothly.
exactly.
You need to prepare it very well. And that
Mm.
has been done over the years.
I think in this war for defense, there is this laser system. It's
Hmm.
only like $2 to destroy.
Yeah.
I think it's, the air defense system, like 3 layers, in Israel, has kept Israel safe for a long time. And air supremacy is something that Japan is going to need for sure. That is something to defend
Yeah.
itself. And, what do you think of this laser technology?
Laser technology has two severe issues right now. It
Mhm.
is good. It is the fourth layer, by the
Mhm.
way, the iron beam, then the iron dome,
Yes.
then the magic baton or the David sling, and
Hmm.
then the arrow. These are the four layers of defense that Israel has. One, laser is always subjected to weather. You get rain, you get fog, you get desert storms, you get all kinds of things. The laser cannot work. It works in good
Oh, okay.
weather conditions. Otherwise, it gets disrupted, it gets scattered, and it doesn't work efficiently. Second thing, it works for relatively short ranges. Okay,
Mm.
10, 15 kilometers. It's not yet in the stage that it can intercept a missile and destroy it in 500 kilometers away. So
Oh.
these are the two things that are missing right now. You need the full layers in order to be able to prevent most of the attacks. Even then, it depends on how much the enemy is capable of launching simultaneously. Because if it saturates the defense system, or they hit, much like the Iranians did now, hit some of the radars, the long range radars, you do not get the warning on time. And then there might be penetration of your defense systems.
Oh.
So we are relying on that because we have, and that, for that you need the offense. because we have took out a lot of the Iranian launching capabilities,
Oh, yes.
they are not in a position to launch a lot. And when they launch, let's say 10, 20,
Mm.
the systems can easily deal with that at very, very high percentage, over 95%. But
Wow.
if you go down and you try to handle 500,
Mhm.
then you would get down to maybe 85 or 90%. So it's still very good.
Mm.
It's still very important. And I think that you do not need to think about the cost. When you talk about a drone that costs a few tens of thousands of dollars and a missile that intercepts him that costs a few million, this is not the right equation. The right equation is the potential damage that that drone could have caused,
Ah, that's true.
not the cost of the drone, but what could it do if it hit its target. The second thing is, will it give enough freedom for maneuver to the government of Japan or any other country?
Mm.
If you have a lot of civilians being hit by drones and other things, you are forced to retaliate. Even when the time is not convenient for you or the way is not convenient for you, you are forced to retaliate.
I
Your
think.
citizens are being killed.
Yeah.
But if you can prevent that,
Mm.
you save yourself the maneuvering capability to choose the time and the method of retaliation. And this is what Israel got from all these systems of the Arrow, the David Sling, and the Iron Dome, and now the Iron Beam. That's the most important thing.
Okay. Um, I, this after 2022,
Mhm,
or the Russian invasion in Ukraine,
mhm,
I I really felt, personally felt that
mhm,
there was an urgent need of not, not possible to amend the Constitution, and then there has to be some amendment for to process,
mhm,
the Constitution amendment, and then this during Kishida administration, there was urgent three defense system amendment, which allows Japan to attack the enemy bases and destroy it before it tries to attack. And China and
mhm,
Russia, of course, got very, very angry at the
mhm,
document. But I think that this time when uh, um, Prime Minister Takaichi is going to meet President Trump. See, this is not about, she was treated like, I'm sorry to say this, but she treated very well, treated President Trump very, I think, cordially when he visited Japan. And that was,
mhm.
to me, it sounded very polite, common sense. And then, she was labeled like some kind of like woman, who tries to, like what? Sorry, like I cannot express like some of the words, but like I have to say that what, like this kind of, woman is like, she is like a waitress, blah, 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 some, in better expression,
Yeah.
And then, I really hate this culture of like, slut shaming at some point, because,
Look, I try not to get emotional over these things.
yeah,
I think that what she did was smart politically
yes,
when she was really
exactly, yeah,
showing courtesy to
yes,
President
yes.
Trump and all that. That was very smart on
Mhm.
her side. She is probably a smart lady who knows what she wants. Now, the world is having a change. The world is changing. The take for example the Security Council of the UN.
Mm.
It reflects on the powers that ended World War One, not even World War Two, because Britain was bankrupt after World War Two. It took until 2006 for Britain to pay its debt on World War Two.
Oh.
Tony Blair signed the last check. Okay, so I think that the world is changing. India needs to get a table at the high table, a place at the high table.
Mhm.
So does Japan. Japan needs to rethink the entire way it views everything around it. Japan can no longer rely on being secure by someone else. This is not a smart policy, not for Japan, not for anyone. Japan can be a very leading and a very positive force in the East that would balance together with India, China, and Russia. And India and Japan should be, together with South Korea, the leading forces in the East that would drag everything up, that would drag it economically,
Mm.
socially, in terms of democracy, and of course, militarily as well. To that end, Japan needs to build a very, very strong armed force, especially Navy and Air Force, because Japan is an island. An
Yes.
island needs to secure all the kind of things that should come in and out of that. In order to do that, you need a strong navy, you need a strong air force. That navy should have everything: aircraft carriers, destroyers, missile corvettes, submarines, everything. The Japanese knows how to build them very well and how to equip them with the cutting edge technology today, because they can do that. Japan has always been a nation of warriors. Japan has never been afraid of wars or anything. I'm not suggesting that Japan would launch war on anyone, but being strong would most definitely take out the will of others to attack Japan, and would not see it as a vulnerable place on earth, because it would be able, together with the Navy and the Air Force, to secure the naval routes, the water roads to Japan and out of Japan. Alongside with that, Japan should build allies all over the world with those countries where the supply to Japan comes from. Supply of everything it needs for its industry, supply of energy, supply of food, supply of everything. They have to build, and they can. Japan has the ability to do that. But it needs to change the way of thinking from the way of thinking that was being put forward by the emperor Hirohito after World War II. That is no longer valid. You need to change that. You need to adopt yourself to the new world. I. It seems to me that the relatively new Prime Minister of Japan understands what is going on in the world, and would probably start taking steps along these lines.
Yes. She.
Together with Trump, Japan needs to align itself with the Western world, because Japan is being threatened by China and by Russia.
Yeah.
It is therefore an ally of India, which I know Japan has very good relationship with and a lot of investments in,
Mm.
with the United States. Again, good relationship, not good enough in terms of building an army and all that, and with other countries that can support it, such as Israel, with technology to build weapons that would save Japan decades, because we're already there. With proven weapons that have been proven now on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So
I.
that's what Japan needs to do.
I was actually, I thought over, the term deterrence, after you mentioned that, the words doesn't mean anything, which is true. And, I realized that really, which was very important. And, that I was thinking that, at that time, when we had, I think the first or second podcast, I think that I was already thinking that, Japan needed, was or had already, amended. and
Mhm.
issued three defense policy. And then there had, that was some kind of urgency to, upgrade the defense level to meet President Biden at the time. But anyway,
Mhm.
for President Trump, I think that Japan, the only way to build, peace, is to defend itself. I
Yeah,
think that arm itself, that is probably the best way to build the best relationship with the United States and
Mhm.
the democratic world. That was, that what I really sorted out, really. You know.
I fully agree. I think Japan should be defending itself and have a very strong,
Mm,
sophisticated, and lethal offense.
yeah.
It should play both. Now, look, for example,
Mm,
at Ukraine. Either the president of Ukraine in 1994 gave up the nuclear weapon and gave it back to Russia,
mm,
Russia would have never attacked Ukraine in 2022. You need to be strong if you want to make peace, if you want to live properly. You need to be strong. You cannot be weak and expect to be just, and everybody would treat you well. It doesn't work that way. It
mm.
doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Now, you have to understand that we are witnessing a change in the global world.
Mm.
No longer will India, Japan, maybe even Germany stay out of those things. They would have to have a table, a place at the high table, and the high table should change. Now, I also think that the UN, as President Trump is saying now clearly, is not the right institute because it has 194 countries, members. Most of them are not democratic. Most of them are totalitarian, and most of them do all kind of nonsense, and that quotes as a big issue for the world. It can't work like that. Things needs to change. And Japan should place itself in the right place of history. And I think that the current prime minister of Japan can do that and make it
Think
into
it's that moment now, really. I
yeah,
think it
yeah,
is exactly that moment.
mhm,
And yeah, could
yeah.
you just continue what you say? Yeah, really.
And I'm saying that should worry everybody. Look, for example, at what is happening now with the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yes.
The Islamic Republic of Iran is controlling the Hormuz Straits. At
Mm,
their narrowest place, they are 33 kilometers away, well within cannon or artillery range. Needless to say, missiles and other things. Now, let's look at what goes through these straits. 20% of the crude oil goes through that straits. That's a lot. That changes everything. Look at Europe right now. Europe, within the last 2 weeks, prices of oil went from $70 per barrel of crude oil to over 90.
yes, yes. I was, looking at, you know,
Huge problem. 25% of the liquid natural gas goes through the straits. 35 of sulfur and 15% of ammonia, which are crucial for the fertilizer industry and therefore for the agriculture. Without that, we don't have an agriculture. And the reason for that, by the way, is that the gas is not clean. Because the gas is not clean, it has a lot of H2S,
yes.
okay, gas, which is poisonous. You need to take it, you need to treat it, and then you need to do something with it.
Mm,
So you create sulfur, which is very important, and you create also ammonia
mm,
using the Haber-Bosch, I think it's called, process to create ammonia from air.
mhm.
And right now, the piles of sulfur
Yeah.
in Qatar and the Emirates can be viewed from space. This is how big they are.
Oh,
It's huge. And that is crucial. Without that, we will not have economy. Economy without fertilizer and insecticides would never work. we would go back to hunger like we had in the 16th century, the 17th century, and the 18th century. That is no longer the case due to developments that humanity has been able to achieve. And this is very important. And we cannot let these crazy guys in Iran who has only the wish to destroy, not to build anything. They only wish to destroy. Look at what they said. Look at where they took the resources. Iran is 1.6 million kilometers square.
Mm.
Israel, including everything, all the territories in dispute, whatever,
Yeah.
26,000 kilometers. It's like 70 times bigger.
Yeah.
So it's a huge country, a
Mm.
lot of resources. By the way, a lot of smart people. I met Iranian scientists in conferences back in the 90s and all that. Extremely good. They
Oh,
know what they're talking
see.
about. Yeah, they are serious. They are good. They know what they are doing. It is a very serious bunch of people. Look, it's true that it has a lot of ethnic groups in it.
Mm.
But these ethnic groups have been together not like 100 years in the Soviet Union,
Mhm.
but for 3,000 years. So they look as one and they are good. But with the current regime, they will not be able to do anything good for themselves. Needless to say, for the world, first of all, for themselves, to be able to live. You have so much oil and you don't have electricity.
Mm.
You have so much oil and you don't have good industry and export and everything. And you are not leading an economy.
Mm.
The second largest oil reserves in the world after Venezuela is in Iran. Now you understand what Trump is doing.
Mm.
If he gains control over Venezuela and Iran, and together with what the United States has, and the fact that all the Emirates and Saudi Arabia and all that are on the American side, that gives the United States control over most of the energy. China will not be able to buy it for cheap.
Yeah,
They will have to pay market prices.
yeah, I think that's a very strategic way to dominate against China. That was something
Yeah,
I was seeing.
yeah.
And then, there are
Yeah.
people, who claim that people of Iran should be deciding right now. I mean, how come people of Iran are able to decide right now, right at this moment, when IRGC are operating and still killing people? And it doesn't make sense to me. And this.
No, they cannot. The whole purpose of the current operation is to create the conditions for the people of Iran to raise up
Yeah.
and say no more. And let us hope that the regime that will emerge out of that will be a regime that aligns with the West.
Hmm.
That's what we are
I
hoping. This is why all these airstrikes are happening. It
Yes.
is right now we are bombing the Basij, we are bombing the Revolutionary Guards. That is the current strikes of Israel and the United States to allow those on ground, the Iranian people, to come and say, okay, this is what we want. This is what we want. And let's see what they will say. A lot is at stake,
Mm.
both for them and for the world. But let us hope that they would take the right decision and they would do the right things and they would be able to formulate to themselves a new country that is part of the good
The
nations.
democratic bloc, to me.
I'm not sure whether it will be a
I hope
democracy or
so.
some kind of other. I don't care. As long as you're on the side of the good ones and you want your people to strive and not to be enslaved to creating a nuclear bomb to destroy some other country.
Yes. See, you mentioned that you have met like Iranian scientists and they're
Yeah,
serious. And
mhm.
of course that, Japan, Japan had a very, great scientists during World War
I
II.
met them as well. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, of course. But after World War II, though, the nuclear, science has been utilized for the electricity and for the Japanese, when Ambassador Cohen, had press conference during 12-Day War,
Mhm,
one journalist asked, why it is a bad idea for Iran to hold nuclear technology. But I I had a guess. This is something that happened. I just do not know the fact. Did not know the fact. But
mhm,
this person, Drews, who was a political candidate for in Germany, he said
mhm,
like something like his father was a nuclear scientist who studied in Soviet Union, and he lived in like
mhm,
on Ukraine for a short period of time. And you know, when it comes to nuclear technology, when news mention serious, I mean, the regime could use people in the most harmful way. I really believe that way. And in a sense that, I'm really sorry for them but at the same time, there are people who align and with the regime. And so I really believe that in that sense, I don't think that um this nuclear science technology should be monitored strictly, really, without, any just hiding, by the the new Iranian regime, I really think. And, that should be also controlled. And at the same time, uh, um, during, yes, this, you know, I really, um, you know, I really said, something like, this is something I was doing on social media sometimes, but I really did count how many times uh, uh, Khamenei's account started to mention, Netanyahu, the term, I mean, as a term, and then Zionism,
mhm.
how many
Yeah.
times, this is a really ridiculous thing, that you might
Uh,
think, but, it's typically, he has a typical logic that he wants to frame people into, really. And one thing is that, Israel is not legitimate. And,
mhm,
I watched some documentaries and just recently, the MC said, something like, the narrator said something, Israel is behind the war. I mean, it's not behind the war. I mean, it's because Israel is attacked all the time, right?
it's look, the last time that someone threatened the Jewish people with annihilation,
Mhm.
he almost succeeded. That was Hitler in World War II.
Yeah.
If someone else comes and say, I'm preparing to do the same, but in a different method, this time nuclear weapon, we cannot afford, after losing 6 million in World War II in the Holocaust, we cannot afford to play around and ask, well, is he serious? Is he not? All that. The fact that none of the members of the UN came and said, look, a country that threatens with annihilation another country cannot be a part of this organization,
Mm,
cannot be a part of our world, cannot be a part of our culture. That is something that is really disturbing. Really
mm,
disturbing. It means that a lot of the world thinks that Israel doesn't have the right to exist. Now, I'm not going to argue whether we have the right or not, whether are we the indigenous people of this land or not, and all that. My opinion is known. I know the history. I know everything.
mm,
But even if I go to the other extreme and say they're right, then what? Then we are all to take out our luggage and go away?
mm.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
If you threaten us, then we will attack you, we will destroy you. Now, there is another fact. The Iranian have tried to assassinate President Trump. They did. They admitted it. So the United States is defending itself and its own interest. It doesn't come to do Israel a favor. President Trump is not a puppet that Netanyahu can play around with. That doesn't work that way. These are two serious leaders, one leading the most powerful nation on earth. The other one is leading a small nation that is being threatened, but shows a lot of capability and resilience in fighting in all fronts, starting from October 7th, going to Lebanon, going to the Houthis, going to Iran, going to the West Bank, shows a lot of resilience and wish to survive and build and create. And Israel has given the world a lot of things that it created and built and made. What did Iran give the family of nations? Except of the wish to destroy and everything ever since 1979 when the Ayatollahs came to Iran and President Carter, the great idiot, has allowed that to happen and all that. So I think that we have to understand, and this can be looked globally. You cannot allow nations to threaten other nations. That is not a way that the Western world or the democratic world can live with under threat.
I think that it's a very democratic value, and I think one ambassador mentioned that, a small nation should not be, intimidated because of its size, really, and
Yeah, not its size, not
again, this
because
is
of its
so this
values,
is about the
but you have to understand this goes very deep. If
mm,
you want to drill down for the
mm,
reasoning for that, because as a Japanese, you'd find it maybe somewhat hard as a new Japanese. It might be as a Japanese before World War II, you would understand that very well because the
mm,
way the Japanese viewed the others was very different
mhm,
than today. Now, today, you have to understand what happened historically. Up until World War One,
mhm,
the Muslim world view itself as the most sophisticated, advanced world. The Ottoman Empire was the big empire. It stopped only at the gates of Vienna.
mm,
Okay? It's the Europeans were the barbarians that nothing good would come out of. That was the way they saw it. All of a sudden, the allies, this Western civilization, which they looked as barbarians,
mm.
is rising up, and Islam is going down, and the Ottoman Empire disappears, and all that, and they are facing with a question: why did that happen? And they come out with two answers. One, given by the Turks, Ataturk. He says it's because of Islam. When you want Islam not to be a personal religion that somebody follows, praise to Allah, praise to that, that's fine. When you try to make it a political agenda and
Mm.
a political way of life, it fails you. Therefore, I'm voting for a secular Turkey.
Yes,
The army would protect it to be secular,
I totally.
and you will be Muslims in the mosque and you will pray to Allah and all that. That's okay.
Mm.
As individuals, not as a
Organization
kind of
or a
a
political
movement,
organization. Yeah.
much like the Western world. The Western world said the same. What the Protestants said, what others said, what even the Buddhists said. Pray, believe, not as a national movement,
Mhm.
because
Believe yourself.
individualism was very important. Individualism was the most important thing in the West, maybe even too important. We need to correct a little bit now and learn from the Japanese or to value the contacts, the relationships, and things like that. The other answer that was given in Egypt. The Muslim brothers, they said that happened not because of Islam, because we weren't Muslims enough. We need to be more Muslims. We need to kill the infidels. We need to do all that in order to become more Muslims, and then things will go well.
Mm.
And that will also give you the reasoning why why does Iran bombs the its neighbors, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Qatar, even Qatar. Qatar was on your side. Why did you bomb them? The reason for that is also interesting and has to do with religion, something that a lot of us do not understand. Religion is present in the Middle East everyday life.
Yeah.
It's there.
You
Now,
mean you mean
just last sentence on that. The Muslims, the Shiites,
Mhm,
see two ways of getting to bring the lost Imam,
mhm,
like the Messiah. One, all infidels will become right and good Muslims. Obviously, this is not happening. The other one is Armageddon. All things break loose, everybody is attacking everyone and all that. And this is what they try to do now.
mm,
It has to do with basic religion belief. Now, that basic religion beliefs also says, look, if the Quran is right, the Jews cannot have a state. They need to live under us, pay jizya, and be subordinate to the Muslims. They cannot dominate over the Muslims in a country. This is unheard of. Theologically, this is a problem. You have to get that into your mind and remember the Ayatollahs are religious leaders, not just political leaders. They come from the religion.
mm.
And that's the main issue. And this is the reasoning why all that is happening.
I actually have a question on this. You know, I mentioned, of course, that Harmony, deserves should be eliminated. I mean, he had to be. And of course, I really felt that way. But, not only that, but I did not believe that this army's behavior would stop just with the elimination of one leader. But, what is exactly this whole army's intentions. And another thing is that it, the political scientists again, are saying is that
Mhm.
um, this United States movement is very much reckless, and it sounds like when, it will, the approval rate is very low and so forth and so forth. But, I will be writing about this poll that, why it's 30%. But, it is not because
I'll
it,
be looking forward to that. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but, I really I don't believe that it's the same as the Vietnam War because of, these, strategically, the United States is winning, but the retreat is going to might be like the Vietnam War, and it doesn't make sense to me at all. And I don't, exactly understand what they mean when they speak of IRGC, exactly. And I hope that, probably you could explain some for the Japanese audience because it
Yeah.
is.
It is not the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was a result of what was then mentioned as the domino theory. That because the world after World War II and during the Cold War was split into two major camps, if one a country of your camp falls to the other side, then it will be a domino effect that would lead all the others to fall to the other side.
Mhm.
That was the basis for the US foreign affair policy at all times. That's what created the Korean War and the Vietnam War and so on and so forth, which eventually ended up in splitting to
Mhm.
North and South.
Yes.
Okay, both in both cases. Now, today in Iran, this is not the case. In Iran, there is no longer a domino theory.
Mhm.
There are no longer two camps. There are no longer all these issues because the Soviet Union has been subdued in the Cold War totally.
Mhm.
It is no longer a real opposing force to the United States because it broke from within, because the inside structure was unstable.
Mhm.
But that's a different story. What we are trying to achieve now in Iran is to change the regime, not to conquer a land, not to be a colonialist,
Yeah.
nothing of that sort. We
Oh.
want the Iranian people to take charge of their own fate and their own destiny
Mm,
and change the regime
mm.
and be embraced by the Western world, including Israel. I don't know if you know that, but up until 79, Israel had extremely good
Empathy.
relationship with Iran.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
The Mossad was assisting the Shah.
Hmm.
The Israeli ambassador, the late Uri Lubrani, which I had the pleasure of speaking to a few times, was a great fan of Iran. We had excellent relationship, but unfortunately, that has changed with a regime that has this Islamic way of thinking against Israel, against the West. Because if you think they took the Muslim Brotherhood philosophy,
Mm,
we were not good Islamists, and therefore that's what happened to us. Let's go back to our roots of being good Islamists. Good Islamists sort of try to dominate
mm,
over the Christians, over the Jews. By the way, those that are Buddhist and Shinto are much worse. They can either come to be Muslim or be killed as infidels. We, the Jews and the Christians, because they recognize that we were there before as a monotheistic religion,
mm.
can live as Jews or Christians, but under Islamic ruling.
No.
Okay, and pay the jizya with humiliation. So this is a theological issue. If you do not get into that, you do not understand it, because by Western standards there is no reason for Iran to attack Israel. Israel is 2,000 kilometers away from them. It doesn't do them any harm. It doesn't take anything from them. It doesn't compete with them on any resources.
Mm,
So what's the big deal? The big deal is theological. It's religion. It's not to do with anything else.
mm. Yeah.
It's not even Palestinians.
Yeah. I just heard.
Hence the Abraham Accords. You see that the Abraham Accords were signed with no mention of the Palestinians.
Oh.
Everybody understands that the Palestinians are not the main issue.
Mm,
They are trying to position themselves like that. They are trying to do that because it's a good weapon to attack Israel, not because it's true.
mm,
Because if it were true, then along all history from, let's say, even if we take it late,
mm,
the 30s of the 20th century, they had a lot of opportunities to build their land. They never did that. Not even when they were under Jordanian occupation between 1948 and 1967. 19 years. Why haven't you done anything? You got autonomy in Gaza. What have you used the resources for? Try and annihilate Israel. This is part of theology and religion, and therefore this is the way that it works.
yeah. I.
And of course, they cannot deliver that to the Japanese people because the Japanese people would not take that argument. So
Mm,
they put it in a different shell, trying to masquerade that as if the Palestinians are being killed by the Israelis, the Israelis are attacking all over, the Israelis are doing that, Netanyahu is trying to wage war on everyone. No, Israel was sitting still doing nothing before October 7th.
I really
So
I agree on that. And um I I really, Chancellor Merz, today, there was a
yeah,
statement that uh, about pro-Palestinian movement. This is not about, what as you mentioned, about this uh this human rights activities that they are doing, but they're harming people instead. And that was something. And just Chancellor Merz said, just please don't do this destruction,
yeah, I've seen him in the conference. Look, Europe right now has two types of leaders.
Mhm.
One type is the one that understands where things are going. I would not even say courageous. I would say they understand where things are moving. And they know that we are in the front right now and we are fighting in the trenches. And if we fail, they will have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So Chancellor Merz understands that. Viktor Orban understands that. And a few others understand it. Unfortunately, Macron doesn't understand it. Sanchez in Spain doesn't understand that. Keir Starmer in the UK doesn't understand that. And therefore, it is not working well for them. And you saw President Trump's reaction for the UK sending aircraft carriers to the region.
Mm-hmm.
Too late. We've already won. We don't need you anymore. You can deploy
I think that,
things anywhere you want, but
there's
look, they tried to send a destroyer to protect Cyprus. The destroyer was unable to leave Portsmouth because it's not ready yet, because the unions have said that they're working from 9 to 5 only. They don't have a sense of emergency. They don't understand that something is happening. And if we fail together with the United States, unfortunately enough, we will not fail, okay? It would come to Europe.
but
Who do you think is next? The Muslims view Spain as an occupied land because they've already conquered Spain once. They need it back.
right, yeah.
It's Dar es Salaam and Dar el Harb. That theory is there. Either it is ours or it used to be ours and we need to take it again. But we as Islam have to dominate the world.
I I I just remembered, but you mentioned that, Iran attacked, Qatar and, all these neighbors.
Mhm,
And of course it was in the news, but you consider, it was for the only, they talk about, something like they were targeting the American bases there, US bases there and so forth and forth. That they were
Not just.
right.
Not just. There are drones that hit hotels, that are drones that hit
It
residential
was
towers.
meant to attack there. I mean, this is very important because it was mentioned as if, as if this war is, this is a very, very, very common narrative for the Japanese people, but the war causes deaths and, you know, um, you know, this is for just not intentional reasons. And as if, it was explained as if Iran didn't mean to attack these,
Mhm,
civilian complexes. But I think, according to what you said, they intended
mhm.
to attack these civilian complexes, right?
Look, today's weapons,
Mm-hmm.
from drones through rockets, through
Mm-hmm.
missiles, through intercontinental ballistic missiles, they do not hit random targets. Most of them are well guided with very sophisticated guiding systems, and they go where the one that sent them wants them to go. A drone is usually controlled from far away. You can control a drone from thousands of kilometers away,
Yes.
see where it is, and lead it exactly to where you want it to be. And it was led to civilian targets, such as you can see the movies on net, hitting hotels, hitting Burj Al Khalifa, hitting all kinds of things that are symbols
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted to wreak havoc, because only at Armageddon will the disappearing Mahdi come and show his face, and the Messiah will come and things will change. And they really believe in that. And this is why they are doing it, because they believe in that. And you need to understand this is part of their religion, and they believe in their religion. It's not just a saying, it is a true thing for them. True thing for them. They want it to be heard, they want it to be understood that way, and this is why they are doing that. And yes, today the president of Iran has apologized for that,
Mm.
But still, after he apologized, they attacked again. And if you want to
That is
hit
a
an
thing.
airbase, you hit an airbase and not a hotel. The hotels are not nearby. It's not within the range, the statistical range of mishitting. No, this is not it. Don't go for that. The weapon systems are way, way more sophisticated than that. They've
Mm.
even given them these drones to the Russians,
Mm.
which now would not be able to get any more because they need them,
I think
those
that this
drones
is
themselves.
very important. Yeah, this, Iran cannot supply these
Yeah,
weapons to Russia, and I really felt this war would sometime happen after 2022. I really felt that way actually, and
yeah.
the only nation that could deter stop was actually Israel. But I was thinking whether what United States would do. I was that was something theoretical at the time because that was not happening. But I really believe that I really not just hope, but I really believe that this war is not about justice, but this war is um you know, I don't think, it was about whether it was the right to, it was right to happen or not right to happen. Actually, it was going to happen in any ways. And, when people, speak of Russia, for example, and, well, why are why is not Trump, not talking about Russia? But, first of all, Iran is supplying major amount of weapons right now. So I think that, this war is going to be a real game changer to stop the war in many ways. I really think that way. So,
I don't know. I think that Russia is a superpower
mm,
with a lot of nuclear capabilities,
mm,
with excellent science,
yeah.
with a lot of production capabilities. It controls, I don't know, 1/7 of the Earth's land,
Mm,
and therefore Russia can sustain and produce whatever it needs to wage war on Ukraine for eternity.
right.
Eternity. Yeah.
Maybe,
There is nothing that will stop Russia
mm,
except a good deal to be made. That deal will be made eventually at the expense of the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainians were stupid enough to start all that
mm,
by wanting to join NATO. It will cost them dearly, but Russia would not give up. Even if Iran would not supply them, they will produce it themselves. No need to worry, sorry, about Russia. Russia is strong. Russia is a serious superpower that cannot be undermined, same as China, by the way.
mm.
And therefore, they will do whatever they need to do.
Yes, I
I
think
thought
that,
that the right
that,
way of
yeah,
the
that,
West was to embrace Russia,
mm,
not to reject Russia, to embrace Russia. Look, the Russian people basically
mm,
share the same values
mm,
as we in the West. Look at the amount of literature, poetry, music, science, engineering, and
mm,
such given to the world by the Russians. It is a formidable society, and therefore it's a something that I think belong alongside the West,
mm,
not as an opposition to the West. But that is not to happen today, but it will probably happen sometime. Right now, yes, we do have to eliminate the capability of Iran to inflict harm. Plus, remember, Iran was the largest exporter of terrorism around the world.
mm,
It financed everything. It financed Hezbollah, it financed terrorist organizations in the United States, it financed terrorist organizations in Israel, it armed Hamas, it armed the Houthim, it armed everyone that is trying to do something bad around the world. Iran is helping it. So that has to stop. If we want to live in a secure world, these things should stop. So comparing Iran to Israel, has Israel ever financed a terrorist organization in the world? Never. Has Israel ever sold weapons to a terrorist organization?
Oh,
Never. So these are nonsense to compare Ayatollah's regime having more than 100, in normal days, more than 100 public hangings every month. Every month.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. To Israel, that executed but one person, Eichmann, back in the 60s, who was the most notorious Nazi war criminal. Total nonsense. Even the questions about the Arabs. Look, we are living with about 18 to 20% Arab population in Israel that are Israeli citizens. They can do whatever they want. They are parliament members, they
Mhm.
are Supreme Court judges,
Yeah.
they are everything you can think of. Nothing blocks them, okay? Except the fact that they, for some mysterious reason, wants to annihilate the state of Israel because they think it would be better. Why? I mean, you fled the Arab countries to Europe.
Mm.
Now you want to make Europe into these Arab countries that you fled away from.
Yeah,
What will it serve?
really, to visit Europe, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
It's
Charlie Hebdo, all these terrible terrorist attacks that is
mhm.
happening, in France, for example, really. So, you know, like the high school history teachers was beheaded. Before me. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not supposed to happen in Japan. So, I really felt that there had to be immigration, I have to say, reform, because I don't know how, but it it was amended in a way, before it was 10 years. That was the standard I used
Mhm.
to know. And then,
Yeah.
now it is changing. It has changed, but before that, during all these people, I think that it was like 3 years that allowed
Hmm.
the employers to obtain their nationality, and there have been many Chinese people who have who purchased
Yeah.
these visa for legitimate or illegitimate route, and then obtained her, and then they do all these illegal things. That is not supposed to happen. And then there are, we have this problem with this uh Muslim Brotherhood, probably, in the future. And so I think that Japan really has to prepare for these kinds of terrorism. And I think that you haven't slept. Rested.
No, I'm fine. Japan needs to prepare to that. And if I may end with uh, maybe
I mean, yeah, but
a
yeah.
humoristic saying, there is no no better tool than the samurai Takana to behead someone. Japan, but the nice thing is to see, and that should be the lesson for Iran and others.
Oh, yes.
Japan is a great example among nations to a change that can be made from a warrior nation inflicting World War II upon the world, and then becoming a peaceful nation that strives for peace, that strives to create good economy, that strives to deliver to the world a lot of good things, including the cars that I'm driving at, which are mostly Toyota, an excellent car,
Yes.
which giving the world a lot of technology, a lot of inventions, a lot of good science. That is a transformation that Japan has actually made after World War II. So things can be changed. They can be changed, and to the very better. And today, Japan needs to have also a force that would protect it from evil that comes from outside, not as an attacking nation, not as a nation that wants to wage war because they like it or whatever, but because it wants to defend itself and it wants to be on the right side of nations and everything.
Mm. Yeah. So I really, I have to probably, it's about time, and that's why I said, but
Yeah,
it's very much an honor. And actually, I learned a lot, really, from what you mentioned.
thank you.
And, I have been actually writing not just Substack, but a newsletter. I will, yeah, probably, as but I think that what you mentioned is very important to me too, and I think that the Japanese audience will be able to understand what you said, really. So,
I thank you very much for that. It is a great honor and a great pleasure for me. I have a lot of respect for the Japanese culture, having practiced martial arts all my life, judo and karate and all that, having visited Japan, even learning about the Japanese culture and all that. I have a lot of respect to the Japanese culture, the Japanese nation, and its achievements throughout the years. And I think that if we can together try and explain things.
mhm.
I don't want to persuade them. I want to give them the facts, and I count on the Japanese people to be able to think for themselves and then understand and form their own opinion. I'm not trying to educate them. I'm trying to bring the facts as I see them and as I know them in the best way that I, with my little power can,
Absolutely.
in order for them to do the consideration.
Actually, what you mentioned about the existential threat, understanding the existential threat
Mhm,
of the Jewish people, that is something that was
mhm.
very, very much understood pre-war, and before
Yeah,
1945 for Japan. And I
yeah.
don't think that it is crazy. And I think that it's something that the legacy that Japan should never forget. That's something that I really say this is really much a never forget, you know, uh time, why
Mhm.
we supported the Jewish people, really.
Yeah,
And there is a
yeah.
reason.
And you did. Yeah,
Really.
sure. Yeah.
So
No,
I
there were Japanese diplomats that did a lot for
Mhm.
the Jewish people and all that, and they were all recognized, and you can see even their names and everything in the Holocaust Museum and so on. Yes, and this is good and this is admirable, and we have only to say thank you. And I think that the Japanese people under the current leadership has the ability and the opportunity to come out on the right side of history.
I think she's producing a lot of opportunities for the Japanese. So
Yeah.
I am very hopeful as a Japanese, and I hope that there's much more because, yes, of the membership with this Israeli
Mhm.
council. So, but anyway, I thank you very much for coming to my podcast, and I pray for your safety. And it's Sunday, so it's the greeting was actually
Yeah.
Shavua Tov, right?
Shavua Tov, yeah, that's the right greeting. We start the week on Sunday,
Yes.
unlike most others. And thank you very much for having you on your podcast.
Oh, it's
It's a great
always my
opportunity
pleasure.
for me.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I
Thanks.
hope that you have a safe Sunday and, have a nice day with your family.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.